On the screen right now is a Dehya Hyper Bloom team. It is a team that utilizes 3 really strong off-field characters such as Nahida, Xingqiu, as well as Raiden to perform the Hyper Bloom reaction. Because this free character individually is so strong already, in theory, you can just put whatever character in the 4th slot such as Dehya and get a really good team going. And we saw this with Eula as well, which is how Eula Hyper Bloom was created. This on the right, however, is the exact same team, but you never do anything on Dehya. You never even switch to Dehya, and you simply rely on the other free party member to do your damage. And as it turned out, it is significantly faster, at least during my run. While at first this might seem impossible, before Dehya come out, this Chinese user have calculated and predicted that on some team, Dehya can contribute up to -8% DPS, which means by putting Dehya into your party, you actually could loot up to 8% DPS compared to just doing absolutely nothing and leaving the last slot open. But if you think about it for a second, this kind of makes sense. During the elemental burst, your Xingqiu or your Lon is not able to utilize their elemental burst, which potentially results in loss of hydro application or just loss of damage in general. On top of that, not every single team can take advantage of their pyro application because 1, it is so poor, but 2, sometimes the pyro application just grief your overall application and further results in loss of damages. In fact, the team on the left is so much slower than the team on the right that by the time I finish this intro segment, it is still not clear the chamber yet. And this is the story of how Dehya is worse than air in Genshin Impact. So this is basically how today's video is gonna work. We have a somewhat invested Dehya with 49 crit rate and 177 crit damage, as well as talent 8 on her elemental skill and burst. Normal attack don't matter because we're never actually gonna use this. My Dehya is currently at C0 with a refined 1 Wolf Greystones. I chose the Wolf Greystones because Serpent Spine unfortunately doesn't work on Dehya, even though it is one of the best budget weapon in the game. And for my artifact, I am running the 4-piece Elm Bomb. These artifacts are not that great, but they are definitely one of the better ones that I have because I kind of just took them from Xiangling, which is unfortunate because now my Xiangling is probably running some scuff-ass artifact now. With that being said, in today's video, we're going to be running a various amount of team with really strong all-field cores, usually involving 3 members like Hyper Bloom with Xingqiu, Raiden, and Nahida. And then we're going to put Dehya into the 4th slot and then do the exact same run a few times with and without Dehya, and we're going to see which one is better. Because, you know, sometimes Dehya could just be a negative inclusion in your party, aka she actively grief your party by not allowing certain interaction to work, such as griefing application with applying too much pyro, or just griefing things like Xingqiu's elemental burst or Yulon elemental burst because she just doesn't work with them for some reason. This is the ultimate showdown between Dehya as well as Air, where you literally don't put a 4th characters into your party, and we'll see how it goes. We're pretty much going to keep the artifact the exact same across the entire video and try to make our run as consistent as possible. Obviously, it's not going to be the most accurate, and you should never ever use DPS Showcase Abyss Speedrun Contest to be your evidence to judge how good a character is. This is simply a for fun video to see if Dehya can defeat Airmundo. Going back to what I was showing you during the intro of Hyper Bloom team, I actually also tried it. What if I only use the elemental skill and not her elemental burst? Would that be better because you can trigger Virgin? And for just this particular case, I also tried building full elemental mastery on Dehya to trigger some Virgin damage. In these cases, I found that it is still slower than pure Hyper Bloom, potentially because swapping into Dehya just costs you swap time and therefore it's not worth it. But they actually have really close results. Hyper Bloom on itself was able to clear the chamber in 1 minute and 2 seconds, while Hyper Bloom with using the elemental skill building full elemental mastery to do Virgin can clear the chamber in 1 minute and 7 seconds, only 5 seconds slower. If you don't build full elemental mastery though, then you can add another 5 seconds on top at 1 minute and 12 seconds by using just the elemental skill as a damaging ability and therefore griefing your application with the pyro. And finally, with the elemental skill and burst where it grief literally your Xingqiu's rain sword, you're looking at 1 minute and 31 seconds. A 30 seconds difference compared to Hyper Bloom without using Dehya at all. Of course, this is only one example. Moving on to the next team, we actually have Mono Pyro, which is supposedly their best team. And if you think about it, it just makes sense since you only have Pyro characters which synergize quite well, and Xiangling doesn't have those problems like Xingqiu's or Yelan where their elemental burst doesn't function during the elemental burst. So in theory, this team should work really well. And while it kinda does, you could actually alternatively just put Bennett on field, and just in case you're not aware, Bennett actually does a lot of damage. Putting Bennett on field has a lot of advantage. He has a really short cooldown elemental skill because of his 2 talent that reduce the cooldown dramatically, but also because you can spam his elemental skill much easier. You just get much better rotation as you get much better pyro energy, plus you're easily able to rotate between his elemental burst and make sure it is up all the time, as well making sure that your Kazu have really good uptime as well, because you can just switch to Kazu easily. Now fortunately, in this case actually, in the case of Mono Pyro, the team on the left actually end up being faster than the team on the right, which is the team that casts the elemental skill and burst versus the free party member team that doesn't cast elemental skill or burst on the at all. Do know that Xiangling here have the exact same artifact in both teams, and most likely on the team on the right I can reduce the energy recharge requirement because of the better energy generation from Bennett, but nevertheless, Dehya casting elemental skill and burst actually beat out Mono Pyro without her by 2 seconds. Just in case you're also curious, if you only cast the elemental skill in this party, then you actually end up being the slowest between the 3 at 1 minute 28 seconds. Very likely because the swap time is just not worth it to only cast the elemental skills. With that in mind though, we move on to the
national teams now.
And immediately we run into a really significantly issues. Let's go! I lose all my Xingqiu's vape here. Let's go! Ain't no fucking way, dude. Of course, moving forward, the problem or the common recurrence is that Xingqiu's is just the best off-field character right now. So by default, most party that have a strong off-field core will include Xingqiu's one way or the other. However, Dehya is just completely incompatible with Xingqiu's because every time you try to cast Elemental Burst on Xingqiu's, you lose every single thing that Xingqiu's Elemental Burst can provide, including the damage, the Hydro application. And of course that end up resulting in even more loss of damage from your RD party member because, for example, your Xiangling wouldn't able to vaporize. Nevertheless though, I think this one was really interesting because putting the clip side by side and I'm looking at it now, Dehya, which is a team on the left, actually have a slight lead in this moment. You can actually see that these two teams are relatively close, but Dehya is ahead by like a 2-3% lead, which is really impressive if you think about all the past results so far. And at this point, I'm running out of words to say to fill the gap of this video. So why don't we talk about the YouTube channel instead? Why don't you check if you're subscribed already, and if you're not, then why don't you hit that big red subscribe button for me. Why also like the video and comment like blah blah ASCW to help the YouTube algorithm. I assume you did it, and the final time between Dehya National and no Dehya National is 1 minute and 18 as well as 1 minute and 23, a 5-second difference with the no Dehya team leading ahead again. The next team that I was testing out was the Double Hydro team. Now looking back, I was using Bennett, but I probably should have used someone else instead like Kazu, which might have made the test much more accurate. I was trying to mimic the original Double Pyro, Double Hydro setup using the Lon, Xingqiu's, Bennett, Xiangling, and I was like, hey, Dehya is a Pyro character. She'll be a drop-in replacement of a Xiangling, right? At least that's what it's supposed to be in theory. But of course, the ultimate problem here is that you not only start losing out on Xingqiu's Elemental Burst, but you also start losing out on Dehya Elemental Burst. So yeah, rich. Between comparing these two runs though, I actually think the more interesting run is the run where I only cast the elemental skill but not her burst. It actually having the exact same clear time as this team where I don't cast skill or burst at all. Likely because their elemental skill can easily vaporize without a problem because I have both Xingqiu's and Yelan. But if you think about it, having the exact same clear time imply that Dehya in the party is actually a good addition because just by casting her elemental skill, I can get more defensive utility through the tanking mechanics as well as a little bit of interrupt resistance. So Dehya actually do something in this party, at least in my run. In the end, the team where I cast Dehya elemental skill and burst ended up spending 1 minute and 56, which was really long, but the team where I only cast Dehya elemental skill or the team where I don't cast anything on Dehya at all were able to clear in 1 minute and 36 seconds tied together. The final 3-man core team that I end up trying is Taser, with Sucrose, Fischl, Xingqius being your 3-member core and then slapping the Dehya on top. Now this team doesn't really count as a full off-field team since you do have to put the Sucrose on field to get the Sword benefit, and again, just like other team, when you cast Elemental Burst on Dehya, not only you lose field time on Sucrose, you also lose the Elemental Burst on Xingqius. With Dehya, I was able to clear in 1 minute 46 seconds, and without Dehya, it's 1 minute and 38 seconds, so it's not actually that big of a difference, only at 8 seconds. Nevertheless, I think these results was relatively interesting, while for the most part, putting Dehya into a party is usually strictly worse until a clear time. That's not always the case. There are actually 2 instances where Dehya contributed, the first being in Mono Pyro with a 2-second increase compared to not using Dehya at all. The other one being in Double Hydro, where using Dehya give you the additional benefit of interrupt resistance as well as some defensive utility while having the same clear time. Now, as a final note, here is something that's interesting. Throughout the entire run, I didn't really change artifact to keep it as consistent as possible, but in theory, in team like this, I could put Bennett on field and generate more pyro energy and therefore reduce the energy recharge requirement I need on Xiangling, potentially gaining more damage. The biggest thing here is that because I'm fighting 4 rune enemy, they all drop a lot of energy, and throughout the entire run, I don't really have energy problem. You can kind of argue the same with teams like Double Hydro, since putting Yulon on field can easily allow you to cast a second elemental skill much easier or funnel energy easier, so therefore potentially reduce the energy recharge requirement you need on these characters, gaining more damage. But the absolute biggest thing that most people don't realize is that energy in party is split off field. I mean, if you have 3 party member only, you actually gain more energy for the off-field characters compared to the 4 party member case. So with all of this in mind, do you think Dehya was able to beat Airman, or is Dehya just the worst character in the game for sure? That's for you to decide actually. As always, just a final reminder, gameplay evidence is not real evidence. You can't really just do a run like this and compare the time. It just doesn't really work. So let me know what you think. This is just a for fun video. There's absolutely zero field crafting in this video. So I mean, it was kind of fun to make, but if you have fun as well, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like the video, whatever. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.